The fact that the universe exploded into being out of nothing, the extreme fine-tuning that arose from chaos, how the first life filled with libraries full of a genetic code arose from non-life, how morality arose from materials, and how materials have any moral authority over us. In fact, he just called the designer cruel. How does he know cruel if we're just molecules in motion? Where does cruel come from? There's no cruel. There's no truth. There's no nothing. We're just chemical reactions up here. So if I'm doing something wrong, if you don't agree with me, forgive me, but I have the wrong chemicals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, there's obviously no equivalence at all between what I want to persuade you of and what Frank wants to persuade you of. I don't say if you believe with me in Revelation, you can be saved and your sins taken away from you. Nor do I say, as Christians tend to, if you're quite free to disagree with me as long as you're willing to go to hell. It's just not the same. I don't menace people in that way, nor do I give them false promises. Neither the blackmail nor the bribery exists in my argument. I just ask you to think for yourselves and consider the evidence. And if you do that, I should have done this in my first set of remarks. Let's just take these graffiti on the beach. This is one of the oldest arguments in the business. It originates from a long discredited book by a Cambridge clergyman called Paley, who wrote a book called Natural Theology. He said if you are an Aborigine walking along a beach and you come across a gold watch ticking, you know not anything about what it's for. You have no idea what it's for or why it's there. But you know it's not a vegetable. You know it's not a rock. You know it hasn't occurred in nature. It must be there for another reason. Someone must have made this. Perfectly decent point to make. But the organisms such as ourselves are not mechanisms. They're not wound up. They're not jammed together in this way. And if any of you will cast your eyes over any work about the Darwinian alternative explanation for this, the best is actually called The Blind Watchmaker. It's by Richard Dawkins. You'll see that it's perfectly intelligible and well understood and has been computer modeled now to the satisfaction of 99% of all readers in the matter, that we know what the building blocks of existence were and how very, very long and haphazard, with so much extinction, 99% of all species, so much adaptation, so much hit and miss, that it was all put together. There's no mystery about it. The non-theistic, the non-deistic view does describe this reality and has more or less mastered the description of it. If you... No, I've brought the wrong page of what I wanted to say. If you take the opposite view, here's what you have to think. Francis Collins, who did the Human Genome Project, reckons that Homo sapiens, he's a great believing Christian, by the way, Dr. Collins, great man. Homo sapiens has been on the Earth for at least 100,000 years, our species. Not very long. Some think it may be as many as 250,000 years. Richard Dawkins thinks it could easily be 200,000 years. I don't particularly mind. I'll take the low end. Let's take the Christian Dr. Collins' view that we, our own primate species, has been around on Earth for 100,000 years. Now, if you don't take the view I just offered you, the anti-Paley view, here's what you have to imagine. That for 98,000 of those years, humans were born, most of them actually not succeeding in being born, because a good percentage, maybe more than half, would have died in the experience of being born, would have died in childbirth, many of them taking their mothers with them. Life expectancy for the first 50 or 60 or 70,000 years or so, actually the first 80,000, of not much more than 25 to 30 years. Mysterious, terrible plagues and diseases and pains. Inexplicable, unanalyzable, incurable. Terrifying events like tidal waves, volcanic eruptions. Purely scary. No idea where this is coming from. Fear and trembling. As if that's not bad enough, the prefrontal lobe is rather small of this species. The adrenaline gland is rather bigger than it needs to be. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of warfare over territory, over food, over women. Even more casualties, even more suffering. Torture. Enslavement. All of this. And for the first 98,000 years, heaven, the designer, watches this. with perfect indifference as a spectator. And then around 2,000 to 3,000 years ago thinks this won't do. We better intervene. These people need a revelation. In fact, they need a savior. So we'll send them one, but we'll send him or her or whoever to the most remote and illiterate and superstitious part of the Middle East. And then we'll see if the news can spread from there, and if anyone will believe it if it's written down. Well, they got the last bit right. People are willing to believe that. But I ask you what it is to believe such a thing. Now, 100 years ago, I couldn't have made this point because we wouldn't have had the information on which to base this supposition. We wouldn't have known that something like that is what you'd have to believe. But remember, long before any of this evidence was available, the Christian worldview was already well in place and completely and perfectly believed. So if you believe that any of these beliefs are derived from or originate in a study of evidence, so much the worse for you, because you've just been assured by Dr. Turek that that's not the case. It comes from a faith in revelation. Don't confuse it with evidence. Now, one of the things that atheism is much better at describing in the real world than theism is this. Why is there so much warfare between the faithful? Frank has just told us that 99% of all religions he thinks are bogus or phony, which must mean also, by the way, that they're evil. Which is quite a big admission for him to make, because if someone goes around preaching a bogus and false religion, they're not just giving bad information, they're spreading wicked delusions and trying to get people to believe in awful things. So those who say that you can't have morality without religion have suddenly had to make a rather large concession, have they not? That 99% of it is just dead wrong. Now, our view of this is that it's not surprising. It's just what you would expect if religion was man-made, and if it fluctuated depending on the level of culture and climate and other things around the world. Religions would keep on being made by men, and there have been literally hundreds of thousands of gods whose names we know, many of whom have now been forgotten or are no longer worshipped. Well, there are three conceivable explanations for this, or accounts of it, shall we say. One is that all of these religions are true. One is all of them are false. And one is that only one of them is correct. Well, clearly the first option isn't available to us. They can't all be true. According to Frank, one of them is. It's Christianity. Do you know how many versions of Christianity there are? Mutually incompatible, excommunicating each other, describing each other as Antichrist. Would you like me to list them? I bet you if I asked him, he wouldn't say Mormons were Christians. And a Mormon wouldn't think that he can be saved either, because he doesn't believe in Joseph Smith's revelation. And the Pope of Rome, the Bishop of Rome, says that the Roman Catholic Church is the only way to salvation. It's the only true church. The others aren't really Christian at all. So all you're doing is multiplying that difference again, whereas the obvious, the clear, the lucid answer is staring you in the face. It's available to all. There's no mystery to it. This stuff is man-made. No shame in that, I would say. No shame. I mean, after all, so in my submission are our morals and ethics man-made. It's common to us as a matter of human solidarity to know, without being told by revelation from Mount Sinai, a location that's never been discovered, by the way, that a group of primates that thought that murder, theft and perjury were okay would not evolve very far, or live or survive very long. It just wouldn't happen. We have a duty to each other, and we better understand it or die. There is no society that hasn't made or drawn this conclusion. Societies that fail to, that practice things like cannibalism and incest, literally do die out. They don't survive. They don't adapt. They don't evolve. They don't make it.